When you look at this photo, what is the image that comes to mind? Is it your niece? Maybe somebody you babysat before. Maybe even your daughter. Maybe you're not even thinking about who she reminds you of, rather what she's feeling or what she's looking at. It's doubtful you're thinking about modern-day slavery. It is probably safe to say that there are many people around the world, including right here in North Dakota, who have seen modern-day slavery or have heard about modern slavery, but have chosen to be silent. I have chosen to go against the grain and be a voice for the voiceless, and I'm hoping you will join me. I often get the question of why I decided to join the movement and combat human trafficking. And really, it goes back to 2006, when I first heard Anna's story. Now, Anna has very similar characteristics to the girl that you see in this photo. She was 8 years old, living in El Salvador, and like many kids her age, enjoyed playing outside. One day while she was playing, she noticed a vehicle coming up the gravel road. She didn't recognize the vehicle or the people in it, but as they approached her and rolled down their window, Anna started talking to the driver. In the meantime, the passenger got out of the vehicle, went around the vehicle, grabbed Anna, put a bag over her head, and threw her in the car. The next thing she remembered was waking up in some room. What Anna didn't know is she had been taken to a brothel across the border to another country. Anna was scared. She was terrified. She didn't know what was going on. And suddenly, men started to enter the room and rape Anna over and over and over again. Now, for anybody, this story would be traumatic, but think about this little 8-year-old girl not understanding what's going on or what's happening to her. Anna's cries and screams went late into the night. And finally, it was someone outside who was so annoyed by her cries that decided to call law enforcement. It was Anna's lucky day because the law enforcement arrived to rescue her and take her to a local nonprofit in Guatemala that would help her journey to rehabilitate and eventually have a relatively normal life. Anna would go on to have a family and children. But Anna's story is unique because she survived to share it. And it was Anna's story that gave me the motivation to do something, to go against the grain, and to start my own nonprofit, 31/8 Project. 31/8 Project comes from Proverbs 31:8, be a voice for those who cannot speak for themselves. We exist to equip and challenge society to proactively address issues regarding human trafficking, starting right here in North Dakota. One of the best ways we are able to accomplish our goals is through education on human trafficking. Now you're probably wondering, what do I mean about this term human trafficking? When we think about slavery, we think back to a time when it was legal. We might even think back to a time in 1865 when the 13th Amendment was added to the Constitution that would abolish slavery. Now, for many of us, we believe that's when slavery ended. It was a bad problem that happened. We're not proud of it, but we never want to go back to that part of history. But in reality, we're wrong, because slavery has never disappeared. In fact, it's always played a huge role throughout history. Due to the increase of the world population, global traveling, and rapid social economic changes has made it less difficult to move people from place to place. Therefore, slavery took on a whole new meaning known as human trafficking. Human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, and coercion for the purpose of sexual exploitation or forced labor. It's a state of control of one person over another through violent means, lack of payment beyond substance, and theft of labor that results in economic gain for the enslaver. Human trafficking can be broken down into two categories: sex trafficking and labor trafficking. Victims are trafficked for a wide variety of purposes, but they all share the loss of our world's most cherished right, freedom. Victims of sex trafficking can be found working in massage parlors, brothels, strip clubs, escort services, or even on the street. Often they're children, teenagers, or adults that are promised many things, but ultimately forced into prostitution. There's a common misconception that sex trafficking is the only type of trafficking exists, and that's not true. There's also another type, labor trafficking. And labor trafficking victims can be found as nannies, maids, working in sweatshops, janitorial jobs, restaurants, in the streets, construction sites, or on farms. The victims are trapped in a cycle of debt, forcing them into involuntary servitude, debt bondage, or slavery. Now, it's important to remember that anyone can be a victim of human trafficking, and any one person can be a trafficker. People from all cultures are victims of human trafficking. They can be rich, poor, men or women, adults or children, foreign nationals or US citizens. Victims can include the 15-year-old busboy at your local diner or the frightened young woman you saw at the gas station last week. Traffickers include a wide range of criminal operators, including pimps, brothel owners, fake business owners, factory owners, corporations, leaders in agriculture. Two primary factors that drive human trafficking is high profits and low risk. Therefore, it makes it an easy industry to jump into. Now we understand the basics of human trafficking, but how big is the scope of this problem? And to get into this, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about, what is your value? If somebody asked you today what you value yourself at, what would you say? If you knew you were being sold into slavery tomorrow, what amount would you put on your life? I know for myself, I can't put an amount on my life, and I know when I ask some people, they give me an awkward shrug, a weird smile, or a random number. And inside, they're hoping I'm going to move on and not address the issue. But we have to address the issue. The average price of a person sold into slavery today is $90. $90. In 1809, the average person sold into slavery was $40,000 when adjusted in today's money. This tells us that the value of human life continues to decrease. And we really need to think about what we want to do. This is a $32 billion industry. This is bigger than Google, Starbucks, and Nike. Human trafficking makes more money in 1 year than those 3 companies combined. And I know all of us have at least purchased something from one of those companies. There are 30 million people enslaved in the world today, which is more than at the height of the transatlantic slave trade. There have been cases of human trafficking in all 50 states, including right here in North Dakota. You've probably seen recently that human trafficking has been in the news more. It has gotten more coverage. So if you think we don't have a problem here, you're naive, because we do. I want to share a story with you about a missed opportunity here in our community. There was a lady who had a little bit of training regarding human trafficking, and she was out eating at a restaurant here in Bismarck, and noticed in the corner there was an older gentleman with a much younger girl. This girl had dirty clothes, they were ripped. She had a look of emptiness, and the lady could feel in her gut that something wasn't right. So as soon as the man got up to use the restroom, she went up to the little girl and said, "Are you okay?" And the little girl started shaking her head no. The lady panicked, she didn't know what to do, and ran out to her car. When she got to her car, she knew that wasn't the right approach, ran back into the restaurant, and went to talk to the manager. By the time she was able to talk to the manager, that man had left, and he had paid with cash. Now, we don't know if that was a human trafficking case or not, but what we do know is it was a missed opportunity. When we don't understand the steps of what we need to do to help fight this crime, we get stuck in those situations. But even though this is a dark topic, there is hope. And there's hope because of you. And that hope comes with how do we identify victims of human trafficking? And just a few of the ways you can do this is looking for certain signs. For instance, does a person appear disconnected from family, friends, or community? If it's a child, are they missing school quite a bit? Is a person fearful, timid, or submissive? Does a person show signs of having been denied medical care? Do they have random bruises at different stages of healing? These are just a few indicators to look for. Now, if you do suspect that a person is a victim of human trafficking and you have the opportunity to get them alone and talk to them, here are a few questions you can ask them. Can you leave your job if you want to? Can you come and go as you please? Has your family been threatened? Do you have your passport or other identification documents? Now, it's important to remember that you can't just go up to a random person that you suspect is a victim of human trafficking and ask these questions, especially if they're with their trafficker, because that's only going to hurt them in the long run. In fact, that evening, they will probably be beaten, and it will probably be a worse beating than what they're used to. So if you can't get them alone, you need to identify what they're wearing, which direction they were headed, how many people they were with them, and get these details down. And the next step of what you can do is you can call the human trafficking hotline at 1-888-373-7888, or you can call your local law enforcement. Regardless if you're in Bismarck, Minot, or a rural community, you can always call your local law enforcement. And if they don't know where to direct you where to go, if they don't know what to do, they will know who to direct you to. Now, besides trying to determine what else I can do in regards to this topic, there are other things, such as education. The biggest thing I can always tell people is educate yourselves on this topic. And tell your friends, tell your family. Watch documentaries, read books. At your next book club, suggest a book on human trafficking. The food you eat and the clothes you wear all have the potential to be made by slavery. So look up your products. See how the companies are producing them. See if they are fair trade. You can do this by just looking up on the handy-dandy internet, which we all have access to now these days, and see if the product is fair trade, meaning they don't use slave labor to make their products. Those are just a few ways that you can help combat this issue. Anna is just one example of the millions of cases of human trafficking happening throughout the world. The major difference is she survived to share her story. Now it's up to us to help create a world that is ready to take action against this crime. Now, it hasn't been easy. In my 10 years of this journey, I've hit many roadblocks. I've been told, no, this isn't a problem. But I've chosen to persevere for the Annas in the world. No one can do everything, but everyone can do something. This is your opportunity to go against the grain and become a voice for the voiceless.